Istanbul is a unique city, even on a world scale, because it lies on two continents. Europe and Asia are separated by the Bosporus. Its historical past is also very special. This city was once called Byzantium and later Constantinople. Between 1458 and 1923, it was the capital of Turkey, and even today it's the largest city and an economic and commercial center of the country. Like Rome, it was built on 7 hills. Its location is beautiful. It's often compared to Rio de Janeiro. It's situated at the same latitude as Naples and has a temperate climate. The winter is relatively moderate. Snow and frost are infrequent visitors. From May until September, the weather is generally pleasant, bright, and sunny. Because of the closeness of the sea, the mornings are often hazy. The autumn and the winter months are moderate, humid, and rainy. The first impression of the traveler visiting Istanbul is that it's impossible to find one's way about this huge city, crowded with numerous superlative monuments and sights. Fortunately, the city is abundant in lookout places that help visitors to make out the city. Let's start to get to know this city with one of the most famous sights, the Blue Mosque. One of the biggest districts of Istanbul, the Sultanahmet, is also called the Great Jami. A large part of the interior is covered by blue tiles. This is why it's known worldwide as the Blue Mosque. It was built on the order of Sultan Ahmed I, who was enthroned early and died young. The enlightened young ruler, who himself was engaged in poetry. Mehmed Aga, the versatile artist, was trusted with the building of the Jami. The construction started in 1609 and lasted 2 years. The Türbe, Ahmed's shrine, was built 7 years later. This was all the time the Sultan had to take delight in the mosque and the treasures piled up in it. It was no coincidence that the artist, Mehmed Aga, was called by the name Mother of Pearl artist, as the mother of pearl inlay of the wooden furniture still impresses the visitors. The Great Jami is square, the height of the dome is 43 meters, and its diameter is bigger than that of the Hagia Sophia. The greenish-blue tiles of the walls, the decorations of the dome, and the light filtering through the windows together create the unique atmosphere of the Blue Mosque. The Egyptian pillar had originally been an ornament of the Karnak Temple until it was transported from Egypt to Istanbul by the order of Theodosius I. One of the embossments of the foot of the pillar depicts the creation of the pillar. The snake pillar is from Apollo's temple in Delhi. Constantine, the purple-born, had the walled obelisk placed here. It's covered with brass plate embossments. The snake pillar is the oldest, while the German fountain is the newest artwork of the square. It was inaugurated on the first day of the 20th century, on the occasion of the visit of Kaiser Wilhelm II. The Oriental-style pavilion is decorated by golden mosaics inside. It has 2 wells running. The Museum of Turkish and Islamic Art stands on the side of the former horse racing circuit, the Hippodrome, in the building of the Ibrahim Pasha Saray. The museum, founded in 1914 with its 40,000 pieces, is the richest treasury of Islamic art. Its manuscript and calligraphy collection is unmatched. Its Korans and miniatures are the gems of Muslim writing. Prestigious artworks of metal, glass, and ceramics can also be found here. The textiles, carpets, and tapestries are also superb. At the foot of the Blue Mosque, we may get a little appetizer from the oriental atmosphere of Turkey and Istanbul. In the bazaar, we can not only buy the handicrafts, souvenirs, engravings, leather, and brass products, but we may also observe the sellers living their everyday lives in the bazaar as they play, eat kebabs, or have tea. Equally exotic for the American and European tourists are the shoe cleaners, the old man wearing a fez, and the chestnut seller dressed in traditional clothes. The fish seller has a wide range of choices of evrek, bufer, and palamut caught from the Marble Sea or other well-known fish like anchovies or mackerel. Shrimps, grilled or cooked and mixed into salads, are also very popular. No, this is not the Grand Bazaar yet. It's only a small bazaar street, which is an everyday sight here. It substitutes the Western-style food and vegetable market very well, supplemented with a market of clothes and household goods. Although there are some supermarkets and shopping centers in Istanbul, most of the local people, partly because of tradition, partly because of financial considerations, still prefer such bazaar streets. It's recommended to bargain about the prices because they don't think much of any customer, local or tourist, who takes the goods at the price first stated. There's a wide range of products. While shopping, it's very pleasant to try a local specialty, a characteristic ring-shaped pretzel. The vegetables are beautiful and they're displayed very attractively. No wonder they're always sold out by closing time. There's a wide choice of oily seeds and spices. Besides clothes and textiles, they mostly offer Turkish cheese made from goat milk, which is an indispensable part of breakfast and dinner here. Usually, Turkish cuisine doesn't use pork. No surprise in an Islamic country. The most popular meats are ovine or lamb and chicken. Spit roasting is the most popular method for making meals. Shish kebab is familiar and popular all over the world. Little morsels are cut from meat, threaded on a skewer, and roasted, and prepared with thin slices of bread, peppers, tomatoes, and onions. This meat serves as a basis of many kinds of Turkish food. For example, the Iskender kebab, which is served with yogurt. The bread is baked fresh in the restaurants in ovens. They're sprinkled with sesame seeds. The paper-thin Turkish pizza is also baked in the oven. It's served as an appetizer. Sauces, vegetables, and meat dishes are also popular. Earlier, 2 cathedrals stood in the place of the Hagia Sophia, both of them devastated by fire. The building that stands here nowadays was built by the Emperor Justinian. It was he who gave it the name Divine Wisdom, or Hagia Sophia in Turkish. The foundation stone was laid down 1 month after the second fire. 10,000 people worked on this huge construction for 5 years. For 916 years, it was the biggest temple of the Byzantine capital. Following the conquest of Constantinople, for 482 years it served as a Muslim jami. Then, after the proclamation of the Republic of Turkey, Kemal Ataturk, the former and ever-popular president, pronounced it a museum. These days, the Hagia Sophia glitters in all its splendor. Some mosaics inconsistent with the teachings of Islam are covered with canvases. Carpets are laid down in the direction of Mecca. There are Koran reading desks, and a prayer cabin is sunk into the wall of the sanctuary. The names of the Islamic saints are written on 7.5-meter wooden plates, with golden letters in a green background. With a floor space of 7,570 square meters, it's the 4th largest ecclesiastical building in the world after the St. Peter's Basilica, the Cathedral of Seville, and the Milan Dome. But it's older than any of them. Above the passage leading to the hall of the museum, there are famous golden mosaics from the 10th century. One of them depicts Mary holding the child Jesus. On her right, the Emperor Constantine. On her left, the Emperor Justinian, who's holding the miniature of Hagia Sophia in his hand. Not far from the Hagia Sophia, there's the famous station in Sirkek, where the Orient Express arrived. The cistern is a closed reservoir supplying water for the palaces and the surrounding houses. Its brick-domed ceiling is supported by 336 marble Corinthian columns. The wooden houses of the neighboring streets give a little taste of what life might have been like for the people of Istanbul 100 or 200 years ago. These wooden houses, although in a reconstructed form, preserve the local Renaissance, safeguarding old traditions even in the 21st century. On the cobblestones of the alleys, real Turkish carpets and textiles are sold. At the entrance of the Topkapi, we can't help but notice the fountain of Ahmed III, crowned and peaked cupolas and richly ornamented with engravings. The Topkapi Saray and its neighborhood was the home of sultans. Even today, it's separated from other parts of the city by walls. As it was the case with any royal residences all over the world, the Topkapi was also modified and expanded through the years by all of its owners, shaping it to meet the expectations of the age and their personal taste. Originally, it was built by Mehmed II. With the new kiosks and pavilions, it became a separate little town. The palace system takes up more space than the area of the Vatican. The 13,000 pieces of Chinese and Japanese porcelain were placed in the building of the Sultan's kitchen. In the same court can be found the library of Ahmed III, the audience room, and the rooms of the White Eunuchs, together with the new library and the music school of Mehmed II. The old summer palace of Mehmed II was rebuilt by Selim I to be a treasury. The inestimable treasures are displayed in the exhibition cases of 4 rooms. Precious stones, gold, mother of pearl, and silver can be seen here. Besides the rare clocks, medals, trophies, sculptures, and honorary swords, we can admire the 86-carat pear-shaped spoonmaker's diamond and the 2 large golden candelabums, 42 kilograms each, inlaid with 6,282 diamonds. The 2 largest uncut emeralds in the world can be seen here, together with other fabulous treasures. We may admire the splendid thrones of famous sultans. In private rooms, a large seal collection, masterful Korans, calligraphy relics, and miniatures are on display. An ornament of the royal garden is the tulip garden, decorated with a fountain and a pool. This is where the Baghdad kiosk stands, a masterpiece of Turkish architecture. The exterior of the domed building is covered with turquoise and deep blue tiles in white background. The interior is covered with golden embossments. The green robe of Muhammad, his sword, his flag, and his footprint can be seen in the room of Islamic relics. The weapon collection of the sultans, covering centuries, including bows and arrows, swords, richly ornamented guns and shields, is uniquely interesting. As you can see here, shields were not only worn by warriors, but also by precious and carefully kept horses. The harem is the artwork of the famous architect Sinan. It's a labyrinth taking up 15,000 square meters and 2 or 3 floors, which were later expanded several times, adding rooms for lots of different purposes and functions. There was the Sultan's bedroom, the rooms of concubines, the Sultan's mosque and his bath, the dining room, the rooms of the Valid Sultan, or Queen Mother, the rooms of the black eunuchs, and the school of the princes. If necessary, some chambers were used as hospital rooms or prison cells. On the Iftaria terrace, Sultan Ibrahim had a brass baldachin cabin built so that he could have his modest Ramadan lunch overlooking the Bosphorus and the Golden Horn Bay. The bazaar is an exotic, characteristically Turkish, colorful, noisy, busy, and exciting town in and of itself, divided by main streets and side street, walled all around and mainly covered, where the visitor from abroad can get to know masterpieces of handicrafts, jewelry, valuable carpets, textiles, artworks of goldsmiths and braziers, together with the products ranging from slippers to weapons. The embroidered kaftan, hat, or slippers are common gifts that tourists buy for families back home after the compulsory bargaining. Aladdin's magic lamp may also be bought, although it doesn't come with a guarantee. After trying the hookah, it can be taken home also. Real Turkish tea and coffee are best consumed from an authentic cup. In a so-called Egyptian bazaar, we can buy mostly spices and sweets. The Turkish people swear by the effect of figs and walnuts, which, according to them, exceeds the effect of Viagra. Goat cheese is often kept in a goat skin to prevent it from drying out. In addition to honeycomb, other sweets are also sold here. It's very easy to get tired in the crowd of the bazaar, and those who would like to escape the sight of the thousands of ornamented plates, tufted slippers and hookahs may get out to the fresh air, eat a cooked corn cob or a kebab. But the trading never stops, not even in the rainy streets. It goes on endlessly at all possible and even impossible places. Contrary to popular belief, the Turks are not coffee but tea drinkers. The tea can be drunk in the bazaar, in the stores, and in the offices or at the corner of the streets at any time of the day. It's carried about all over the place on brass platters with handles, in unusually small 1 deciliter glasses. The consumption of the once legendary Turkish coffee is not as popular as it used to be, but when they do drink it, the making and serving of it is a big ceremony. Naturally, they make a coffee with grounds in a brass pot over burning wood char, which is quite unusual for the European taste, but it's very pleasant. In cafes and tea houses, Turkish men worship the tradition of the hookah. Brave tourists may also feel free to try it. The covered Grand Bazaar is the busiest place of Istanbul, attracting thousands of tourists every day, but local people also flock to it because of the low prices. Just like everything in Istanbul, the Grand Bazaar has an ancient history. In the time of Byzantine, a trading house stood there, which was expanded and reconstructed over the centuries, but always served for commercial purposes. It took its present form in the early 18th century. It was devastated by earthquakes and fire, which is no wonder since without electricity, huge wax candles and torches were used for lighting. In the late Middle Ages, the bazaars, or bedestens, also functioned as banks, which meant loans and the preservation of valuables. Metal boxes were built into the main walls of the bazaar, praising the work of skilled locksmiths. These mazins were the ancestors of the safe. They were used to store money, jewelry, land registers, and bonds of indebtedness of wealthy people. The keys were guarded by the magistrate of the bedesten. After closing time, scores of armed guards paced up and down the bazaar streets, which is still the custom today. Over the centuries, there were some cases of stealing, of course, but public executions were great deterrents. Those respecting traditions brought their valuables to the bedestens even after banks appeared in the city. In the old times, a prison, a so-called captive house, stood in the bazaar for the purposes of slave trade, but it has been pulled down. The core of the Grand Bazaar is the Eski Bedesten, the Old Bazaar, which stands in the middle of the group of buildings today. The inner court is 45 by 30 meters. It's covered by 15 cupolas, and it has 4 entrances. The shape of the vaults is Osman Turkish style. The stores of the bedestens are open. They don't have public entrances. Instead, the more precious goods were kept in boxes and displayed behind windows. This building is surrounded today by the 2,000 square meter 65 street labyrinth, which is called the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul. Besides the 2 bedestens, there is a jami, a mosque, 2 fountains, 3 wells, 21 shop buildings, and 3,300 shops. They're somewhat less than barely a century ago, when there were 10 mosques, 1 turbe, 1 bath, and an elementary school here also. It's very easy to get lost in the bazaar, but it makes shopping easy that, similar to the grouping of streets in the Middle Ages, when different streets belonged to different guilds, products here are also grouped, so shops selling similar goods can be found next to each other. This layout is typical not only for the bazaar, but for the whole city. Of course, the American-style big shopping malls can also be found here, with hypermarkets, ice rinks, elegant boutiques, shops, and fast food restaurants. The monumental wall protecting old Byzantine still stands today. There are some parts in ruins, but other parts are nicely renovated. At several places, houses and apartments are built into the wall. At the bottom, small vegetable gardens are blooming, where the owners sell their fresh products. The city wall embraces Istanbul from the Golden Horn Bay to the Marble Sea. The system of walls consists of 3 walls, one behind the other, the highest reaching 13 meters. In front of it, there was a 3-meter deep water jump. The wall was interspersed by 96 towers and 53 gates. The Yedikule, or the Seven Towers fortress, is connected to the end of the wall at the Marble Sea. It's like the Bastille in Paris or the Tower of London. A triumphal arch was erected here by Emperor Theodosius so that the soldiers returning from victorious battles could march through it. The gate, decorated with the emperor's statue and 4 brass elephants, was named the Golden Gate. A fortress first with 5, then with 7 towers was built here, which linked it to the city wall of Constantinople. After the Turkish conquest, the Yedikule functioned as an infamous prison and execution place. Today, it's a museum. During the Turkish occupation of Hungary, many Hungarian soldiers were held prisoner here. Most of them are buried here also. The best known of them is Commander Balintürk. The cemeteries are like big parks with lots of flowers, and most often they're on a hillside. The sepulchres of women are engraved with flowers, while those of men are often engraved with turbans. It's a nice custom that in the sepulchre a little pool is sunk, which serves as a drinking trough for birds after rain. From the slope above the cemetery of the Eyüp district, it's possible to overlook the entire city. On the other side of the Golden Horn Bay, the Beyoğlu district belongs to Europe. Pierre Loti was a well-known French writer of the last century who traveled the world as a naval officer and became the creator and master of modern exotic literature. He was a member of the French Academy, and besides novels, he also published travelogues. He was captivated by the fabulous East and wrote several guidebooks and novels on Turkey. His house in Istanbul is a pleasant cafe today. Its contemporary furniture was partly inherited from Loti and is partly the furnishings of a traditional Turkish cafe. The tourists visit this place not only to pay homage to the writer or to enjoy the excellent coffee, but because there's a beautiful panoramic view from the terrace. Beautiful new subdivisions were developed using replicas of traditional wooden houses. The name Bosporus means cow shallows. According to the legend, Io, the love of Zeus, was turned into a cow by the jealous Hera, and this was the place where Io swam across. The 32-kilometer-long Bosporus connects the Black Sea and the Marble Sea. Its width ranges from 660 to 3,300 meters. The Persian king Darius had troops at Rumeli Hisari, where the water is the shallowest. This is where, in 1096, the soldiers of the First Crusade crossed. It's surprising that while the European side is busy and noisy, suffering from traffic jams and smog, the Asian side is abundant in green areas. It's quiet, calm, and intimate. The European Old Town is the center of the economy, industry, and commerce, and most people only come here to work. The fresh air residential areas and family houses of the Asian side are much better to live in. Instead of European-style church towers, we can see white cupolas among houses, and next to the cupolas, delicate minarets. The boat traffic is very heavy. There are lots of fishing boats, all painted blue or green. We can see quiet ports and intimate garden restaurants with tables set on the seaside. At the foot of the minarets reaching to the sky, there are cobblestone alleys and nice old wooden houses. If we're lucky, we can get into a jami outside praying time. It's not overcrowded with tourists like the great famous monuments. We have time to contemplate the Islamic artwork and exotic atmosphere, so much different from European churches. The suspension bridge of the Bosporus was opened on the 50th anniversary of the foundation of the Turkish Republic. The length of the bridge between the two steel gates on the coasts is more than a kilometer, and its height from the surface of the water is 64 meters, so even giant ships can pass under it. The Dolmabahce Saray is a royal residence built on the side of the Bosporus, in the place of the Sultan's summer residence. This is where the first Turkish parliament was opened in 1877, and this is where the first president of the Republic, Kemal Ataturk, died. The ornamented clock tower connected to the building was built in 1890 in Turkish Rococo style. The 800-meter-long aqueduct was built under the rule of Emperor Valens. It bridges two slopes of the Fatih and Beyazıt districts and supplies water for the great reservoir of the Topkapi Saray. The swirl of modern life has not spared this ancient building. Under its arches runs a busy motorway. There are more than 20,000 taxis in Istanbul. It's worth observing that anywhere we look, we can see at least 20 taxis, and since they're not too expensive, it's very convenient to use them to get around the metropolis. Those who do not want to use public transportation may also resort to the not-so-well-known jitney service. Just like in all cities of the coast, fish markets and fish restaurants are very popular in Istanbul. The housewives like to buy cheap fish that are easy to fix in lots of different methods, together with other seafood. You can get halibut, lobster, shrimp, clams, and lots of other specialties. The way these fish are displayed is very characteristic of the fish markets of Istanbul. It's a spoke-like arrangement of fishes on barrels, with the gills open to show the freshness. Nowadays, a real specialty, shark, can be bought in the market, which can be used for shark fin soup or grilled shark steak. Not far from the fish market, we may find a whole street of fish restaurants, where tourists can get to know the fish seen in the market better. The abundance of appetizers is characteristic of the Turkish cuisine. Besides the appetizers, the main courses are mostly made from seafood also. We may find sardines in the salads, deep-fried calamari rings, and shrimp. The main meal is grilled fish, for example mackerel or some local fish, sprinkled with lemon juice. A dark velvet night falls on Istanbul. Now it's like an illustration of the fables of the Arabian Nights. A dreamlike panorama opens up from the slopes of the city. The streetlights and the light of the never-ending traffic glisten like jewels. The bazaar calms down, which does not mean the end of trading. The eating places, the kebab roasters, the restaurants offering local specialties, the lokantasis, the Iskender and Kufte restaurants are open until late at night. The audience and the broadcast vehicles outside watch the Besiktas match enthusiastically. At the foot of the romantic clock tower, young couples meet. From the 85-meter tower of Bayazit, we may see dozens of thousand-year-old monuments. The water of the Bosporus and the Golden Horn Bay mirrors the lights of the city and boats. The sublimely lit walls and stone laces of the numerous jamis, mosques, fortresses, and minarets start to live their own life. The sight of Istanbul at night attracts all visitors to return to the city of the thousand minarets.